You are now tuned in to 13signsastrology.com. I'll be your host, Master of Ceremony. On this episode, we want to get into initiating listeners into the understanding of what the spirit is and what the soul is. These terms are thrown around very loosely amongst spiritual groups, amongst religious groups. We read about these terms in the Bible and different holy books, the Vedas, the Quran. But at the end of the day, if you get into questioning most of, the religious adherents and people that subscribe to religion and people that may even be conscious, they really don't know what a spirit or soul is. Everybody just kind of like has their own interpretation of this thing. So, I've been getting a lot of emails, well, not a lot of emails, but actually in person, a particular individual asked me the question of, like, what is a spirit? What is your take on a soul from your perspective? Because, like you guys know, I'm into astrology, so my definitions of things tend to come from more of an astrological background versus what you may read in a dictionary or what you may read, like I said, a scripture or a holy book. So let's get into that. So first of all, let's go ahead and let's start out with spirit. And what is a spirit? Now, a lot of people that watch my videos may already know my definition of this because I've definitely spoke on this a few times. A spirit is essentially breath. Now, it's more to it than that, but your spirit is like the root of it as far as for you as a being in a physical shell. Your spirit is your breath. That's what controls your spirit. Now, your spirit goes more into, once you get into understanding your breath, you'll learn that your spirit actually goes into your emotions, which is a certain energy. You'll notice that if you're angry, your breaths may speed up. If you're angry, if you're excited even, your breaths may speed up. There are certain emotions that cause you to breathe in different various ways. And when one begins to learn how to control the breath, then one can begin to learn how to control their spirit. Now, there are different individuals that know of a situation where you can actually, I guess you could say, they talk about a person's spirit getting taken from them. Or you can actually take what's really a person's chi from them. Because in understanding spirit, you got to kind of understand chi. So, say for instance, you may be asleep, laying down, and a person that's skilled in this type of art may be able to hover over you and get close to your nostrils or get close to your mouth or, wherever you're taking in your breath at during your sleep. And they can begin to breathe in when you breathe in. Breathe in when you exhale. So when you exhale, they breathe in. This is a person that's taking a person's chi. And there's nothing wrong or right about the situation. I mean, it is what it is, but there are individuals that know how to do this. So that's kind of like when you get into like understanding a person like that's taking a person's spirit or taking a person's energy. It's just like the same concept of when you do CPR. Those people that may be skilled in the knowledge of CPR. Now, this is you giving a person your chi or giving a person your spirit. When you research the term spirit, or when you research the term respiratory, you'll see the term spirit. Because your whole breathing apparatus that's located in your body is predicated upon spirit. That's spirit. And that, like I said, dictates your emotions and your health. So your spirit really goes more into understanding your health and things of that nature. Now, the next level I take this video to is to define soul. What is soul? We got soul food, soul music. Some people say that some people are soulless. Some people believe that some beings that are walking this planet don't have a soul. So we need to clear all of that up. What is soul? Now, soul is going into understanding your memory bank. This is your not your thought process, but this is more of going into understanding your subconscious mind. This is what's called your soul. In astrology, your soul would be ruled by the sun, because your soul is the very essence of you. In your soul, you have stored in you everything that you've ever done, everything that you've ever experienced, everything that you've ever accomplished in past lives. All of these things are captured within what's called your soul. And I know in like psychology they call it the subconscious mind. And the soul is a living being. This is what a lot of people don't understand. That's separate from the physical body. The soul may live in the physical body, but it's not limited to the physical body. The soul has a mind of its own. And people that understand astrology know that that's why a lot of people don't understand the sun, because the sun is both of a positive and a negative polarity. The sun is an existence in and of itself. It's a self-sustaining entity. That's what the soul is. You can have communion with your soul through the process of your subconscious mind. When people get into tarot cards, when people get into different forms of divination, this is you having communion with your soul, beloved. This is your soul projecting itself to you in your physical reality. Even if you go see a psychic, or if you go get a spiritual reading, or what may have you, this is your soul. This is you communicating with your soul. In order for you to get that reading, your soul has the ability to go and penetrate another person's mind. And a person that's a true medium, that's gotten over their ego, because you got to remember that a lot of people mistake the soul for the ego. The ego is the conscious persona, which you think you are. That's not the soul. But if you go find a reader that's gotten over their ego, and they're truly selfless, and they're not jealous, and they're not envious, and they're not all of these human emotions that we experience, if they've gotten over all of that through mastering their spirit and their breath, they can give you a reading from your soul. When a person does an Akashic record reading, and I got a really good Akashic record reading, by the way, the other day, and I just want to send a shout out to that sister for that. And we haven't forgot about you. But when a person gets an Akashic record reading, this is a person that's really essentially, the Akashic records is, they say it's a computer bank, or it's a library, or it's this, or it's that. The Akashic records are just simply your subconscious mind, beloved. And a true person that gives you Akashic records reading has to ask permission from your higher self, because this is the gatekeeper of the soul. Your higher self is the gatekeeper of your soul. They have to ask permission from your higher self to read your Akashic records, to open up that bank, because it's located within you. You might be getting it from somewhere else, in another source. You might be on a computer getting it, or you might be at a library, or some people see a library or a computer when they read the Akashic records or what may have you. But at the end of the day, that's you. That book you get it from, that's you. I know people that do readings on themselves through books. There's so many different readings you could do on yourself. Some people, they take holy books or scriptures, whether it's the Bible or whether it's the Book of the Dead or whatever, and they'll open the book, and whatever they turn to, they'll say, well, that's the message that my soul or my higher self has for me. So that's your soul. And what you got to understand is that your soul has a time period on it. Your soul was born or originated, it was harvested at a certain point, and there's a certain point where your soul will expire. However, we're talking millions of years type of time here. We're not speaking on like, a couple hundred years. Your soul can literally exist for millions of years. Your soul is just like a sun. A sun has a time period on it, right? A sun will eventually burn out. Our sun is right now is actually in a stage where it's dying. Right now, I mean, we don't notice it, but this sun we have is burning out. We're going to eventually have a new sun. Some people are already feeling the effect. We already really have two suns, actually. We have a sun in the center of the earth, and we have a sun on the the sun that you see every day. We get most of our chi, most of our energy from the sun, the eternal sun on the earth. This is why you could be in a cold place in the middle of winter and it's warm. Because the earth has an internal heating mechanism to heat itself. We don't get the sun on the outside that you see has very little to do with the climate. Though we do have periods where we're closer and further from it, but this is why scientists can't explain why certain days when it's supposed to be freezing cold is warm. Because we have another sun that they're not telling people about. And that's the soul of the planet. That particular that sun was put there at a particular time. So we already have two suns, but we're going to be resonating with three suns eventually. At some point. But I'll get into that on another episode. And when we begin to resonate with three suns, this is going to change the experience that we have with our soul and our higher self. It's already changing. You're noticing that ever since 2012 took place, that your reality is a lot more sci-fi. Your reality is a lot more paranormal. Even just a normal person has to admit this. You can now go on television and hear all type of words and terms thrown around that normally weren't thrown around. People talking about third eyes and kundalini and all of this stuff right on TV. So you're noticing things are changing. So your soul, back to the point, your soul has a time period on it. A time when it will begin and end. Your soul in your past life was your rising sign. Whatever your rising sign is in your natal chart, that was what your soul, that was the essence of your soul in your past life. This is how you can learn about what you mastered in a past life, and this became your rising sign. Your rising sign in astrology, or your ascendant, some people call it the ascendant, this represents the mask that you wear. This is really, you're more of your ascendant than you really are your sun sign even. Like say for instance, I myself, I may be a Sagittarius rising. You may feel I'm more of a Sagittarius than I am a Leo. From dealing with me, because Sagittarius are sages and they're philosophers and they like to teach and they see the broader picture. They have a hard time seeing details at times. That's all that describes my character. So that's the Sagittarius in me. So that's because the reason why this became my physical exterior character, with the character that I project to people, is because I mastered that. It was my sun sign in another life. I was a Sagittarius in another life, and I was able to master that. So then now I've transformed into learning the lesson of a Leo, so your soul is more inner. Even though I'm a Leo, and you can describe some traits and say, yeah, you just like a Leo though. But at the end of the day, that's more of the inner aspect, dealing with my subconscious mind, my memory bank. So this is the part of my subconscious mind that the light is shining on now. You got to look at the subconscious mind as a compilation of all of the different zodiac signs. It's not limited to a sign. However, your mind, your light is going to shed light on a certain aspect of the subconscious mind in a particular incarnation so that you can get those experiences. So I'm getting the experiences of a Leo. This is what it means to be a Leo. I'm getting the understanding of being a Leo in this lifetime. And the reason why I'm able to be more of a Sagittarius easily is because I mastered that in the lifetime. I got the experiences of being a Sagittarius from the inner aspect. So now it's a part of my character. That's who I am. So that's what the soul is. And in the natal chart, you may be asking yourself, well, what is the spirit? What aspect of the spirit is in the natal chart? And the spirit, beloved, has no direct bearing to anything even astrological. The spirit is deep. The spirit is a shapeshifter. The spirit, like people say that they communicate with spirits and they communicate with the dead and things of that nature. The only way to really understand those things is to really go into understanding the moon. The spirit is a lot of it is dictated by the moon tides and the moon phases. If the moon is big and full, more spirits are out in the atmosphere. And spirits exist in the atmosphere because they're predicated upon the air, or what some people would call ether. See, spirits are like ether. And when you understand ether, this is going more so into the dark matter aspect, or the darker aspect of our existence. This is past the zodiac sign, the sun, the moon, and all that. I mean, the moon is the only portal to really understand, if you want to get into it from an astrological point of view. The moon would be the only portal to really understand how to get into the world of spirit. Spirit is infinite. Spirit has no time period. It neither began nor ends. It's always been there. So you can channel the spirit of your ancestors at any time. I could call on the spirit of Asaru, by saying his name, Asaru. And if I keep saying that name, I begin to call on the spirit of him. And I begin to embody him, and he can temporarily incarnate in me through saying his name, because when I say his name, what am I doing? Breathing a certain kind of way, in a certain tone, what's called tone. So you can channel a spirit at any given time, any spirit. And this is why a lot of masters, you can change your persona, your character, a lot of times by understanding the spirit plane, because that's infinite. Soul plane, again, has a time period on. This is you, your personal experience with really another realm, and the memories that when you die, you don't forget anything. You take all of that with you. Nothing is forgotten. And you're going to go to what's called the Hall of Records by the Egyptians. Some people call it the Akashic Records, and you're going to be questioned. You're going to be taken down there, taken by the hand, but I think it's Anubis, the one that walks you down there. Different people believe different things, so there's no argument about who does it or whatever. But you're going to be taken down there. You're going to be questioned in the halls of Ma'at when you die, or when you transform, is what we call it. When you transform into another life, because you have a parallel life going on at all times, and at some point that parallel life is going to become permanent for you. That's what's called death. You go there all the time in a dream state. That's the other life that you live in the dream state. It's another world, and you got problems there that you're solving, just like you have problems here that you're solving, like in the physical realm. You got problems on the soul. It's called the soul plane. So one day you're going to be taken there permanently, and they're going to look at your records and say, okay, and they're going to grade you. It's kind of like getting graded. And then from there, you'll either become an ascended master, you'll maybe have to stay in what's called purgatory and help out one of your ancestors to accomplish some things so that you can free your karma up, or you may just become an observer. There's various different positions in the soul plane. Various different positions. So then you have on the spirit plane, though, again, this is just, they're always there. Some people say there's 7 creative spirits called the Elohim, or the Seraphim and the Cherubim, is what some people call them. And these are archetypes that you can always channel. These 7 different creative spirits is more than that. It can actually turn into 72, believe it or not. Some people say 42. Some people say 49. There's different numbers. It doesn't matter what you believe the number is. At the end of the day, it's just to understand that there's different archetypes that you could channel. You have the main archetypes, but then up under them, they got helpers. Up under each one has like 7 more different spirits. So like, say for instance, if I'm dealing with Ra, Ra may be an archetype, right? But then he may have 7 different aspects. So there may be 7 different aspects of Ra. So this is understanding the spirit. If you got to understand chanting, tonation, breathing, prana, chi, shin, all of these terms need to be understood to understand what spirit is. Now, the last thing I want to go into, and I'm going to shut down this video, is that I want to go into something that I was discussing with a particular friend of mine about spiritual people versus conscious people. Is there a difference? Is there a difference between being conscious, and is there a difference between being spiritual? Sure it is. Sure it is, in my perspective. To be conscious is that's your Mercury sign. So this is what you are mentally aware of, like on a mental level. Like if I'm saying I'm conscious of accounting, to be conscious of accounting means you're aware of it. You're aware of accounting techniques. You're aware of what goes on in the school of accounting. So this is a part of your Mercury because it's on the forefront of your mind. You've taken that part from out of your subconscious mind and brought it into the forefront. So that's what being conscious is. Anybody can be conscious. You can read a book and be conscious of something. But to be spiritual, that's a feeling. A spiritual person can feel if something's wrong with their child. Like a mother is spiritual naturally. A mother is naturally going to be spiritual for her child because she birthed him. She breathed and pushed to bring him into life. Like even sex. Sex is spiritual. You see, a person that's good or bad at sex, you can determine how spiritual they are, believe it or not. Because sex is feeling. Or you may have some partners that they resonate and they're good with one partner and they're not so good with another partner. That's because your spirits couldn't connect. You didn't connect on a spiritual level. You want to have good sex, you have to become more spiritual. So just because you're conscious and read a few books, that don't mean anything, because you may be conscious of the Tao Te Ching. You say, I'm going to use the Tao Te Ching and put it on the system, do X, Y, and Z, and then you get in bed and you can't even go 30 seconds. Not talking about anybody at all, because I mean, I don't know what you guys do in bed. I'm not there with you. And I'm just saying in general, like, that's really how people think. They think because they've read a lot of books that now they're spiritual, and they're not. Especially a lot of brothers, though, actually. And sisters, too. It's a really good blog post that I'm going to hit you guys onto that a sister wrote on this topic, talking about sisters that may be conscious and call themselves spiritual. And I'll try to leave that in the comments or put a link on the site or something so you guys can read that too. But it's brothers and sisters too. I mean, you know, just because you've read about Egyptian culture and you've studied voodoo and done this and done that, now all of a sudden you're conscious. You're not conscious because you can do those things. A person that's proficient at voodoo is able to get into, even if they're practicing dark voodoo, I'll talk about that. That's a person that's able to get into a person's subconscious mind and put memories in there that may not necessarily be theirs. Yeah, a person can tamper with your subconscious mind. You got to protect that thing. Your higher self is the gatekeeper of it, but a dark being can even penetrate that. They can penetrate your higher self. Especially if you're not conscious of it and don't understand what it is and you haven't had communion with it. You wouldn't know what thoughts are yours. That's how voodoo works. They make you think it's you thinking it when it's really somebody projecting. It's called projecting images into your mind. So just because you read books on Ifa and you understand all this stuff, now all of a sudden you're just spiritual. That doesn't mean that. A person that's spiritual may not read any books. It's a feeling. A real true psychic is spiritual. Anybody can be psychic. That's just learning how to feel things and feel people. And the reason why a lot of you can't do it is because people are so selfish and jealous and stuff. You're too busy wanting what the person got, or too busy thinking about what's going on with this person physically, or what kind of car they driving, or where they at, what city they in, or what's going on with them, to where you can't even get the experiences of it, of being spiritual, truly spiritual, because your mind, your ego is in the way. You haven't learned how to get around your ego. It's called the separate self. That deserves a video in and of itself. You need to learn how to get around that so that you can get more into spirit and learn about that. But you're too busy worried about physical stuff. That's really, I just told you, all the physical stuff comes from the subconscious mind. You want all this stuff, you need to tap into that. Feel me? So I'll go ahead and shut this video down. I hope that answered questions and comments and, and just spark interest in people in learning about spirit and soul and understanding what it means in astrology. And yeah, we do believe in all of these different things, and astrologers do. It's not just a science that's physical and dealing with some planets moving around, and all of these planets are connected to parts and chakras within you. So we, in this type of astrology, 36 signs astrology, we practice the form of astrology that covers it all. Right? It's nothing that we don't understand. I don't care what topic you bring us. I understand voodoo. I understand Ifa. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm like versed in, like I'm a master at all of these topics, but I'm saying I'm able to merge these topics and marry these topics into the understanding of astrology to help you see, okay, well, what's the astrological interpretation of these things. So you want to become a good student and a good initiate into astrology, you have to understand these things. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. And until we meet again, I'm going to leave you on Hotep, Namaste, Wadu, and peace.